Former Bristol County District Attorney and Mayor Sam Sutter is looking to get back to the 6th floor, running against incumbent Mayor Paul Coogan and challenger Michael Vandal. Mr. Sutter served 1 year in 2015 as mayor, having been elected following the recall of Mayor Will Flanagan. He was defeated in 2015 by Mayor Jaziel Correa. He feels his defeat was due in part to the implementation of a $10 a month trash fee during a city financial crisis, a move he says he will not repeat.
Bob Correa put in a new fee. He put in the rainwater tax, and he put that in 2008, and he lost in 2009. And Will Flanagan put in a new fee, and it was a fee in the sense that you now had to pay for trash bags.
So
that was Will's program. That was Will's way of dealing with a couple of issues: his deficit and reducing the trash tonnage. And he was recalled. And then I put in what I called a trash fee, $10 a month, and I lost after 1 year. So it's pretty obvious, right, that a majority of the people in Fall River have had it up to their ears with new fees. So I will, and I said this to you when I announced back at the beginning of the year, I will never make that mistake again if I'm fortunate enough to get reelected. My job will not be to put in new fees. My job will be to reduce the tax burden of hardworking people in Fall River.
As District Attorney, Mr. Sutter says he worked with police chiefs in Fall River to reduce crime. He says he looks forward to getting a copy of the latest crime statistics to see if instances of crime have been on the rise since Mayor Coogan took office. Regardless, Mr. Sutter says he can do a better job in limiting the instances of gun violence in Fall River.
We're going to bring back the gunshot detection system. They have it in New Bedford. They have it all over the country, and it works. It's called ShotSpotter, and it allows the police to respond to the site of the shooting within 60 seconds, 120 seconds, but right away. And you're going to solve shootings much more that way because the police are going to be on the scene immediately. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to have to start treating shootings like homicides. We're going to have to start bringing in witnesses to the grand jury, putting them under oath, and asking them what they saw. And if they refuse to testify about what they saw, well, you know what the next step is. They get immunity. And if they get immunity and they still refuse to testify about what they saw, then they're prosecuted for contempt. So that's a simple formula that works.
Mr. Sutter has criticized Mayor Coogan for his decisions to spend the city's portion of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funds, saying more must be invested into creating affordable housing.
$90 million to Fall River, $60 million spent, $30 million unspent. Mayor of New Bedford, initial outlay of $10 million, and I heard recently that he is now allotted even more. This mayor has not done that, and this mayor should have done that. And if I'm elected, if I'm fortunate enough to get elected in November, I will promise the people, I'll look in the camera right now, I will commit that amount of money to affordable housing. It needs to be done for the people of Fall River. It's not just about market rate housing. It's also about affordable housing.
Mr. Sutter takes credit during his time as mayor in finalizing the deals to bring Amazon to Fall River and Market Basket as the anchor to the South Coast Marketplace. He plans to provide similar leadership in developing downtown.
Let's take the downtown. Now, I'm not saying that this is viable. It's probably going to be too expensive. But let's dream and say that we did find a way to bring back the Capitol Theater, and that there were a series of events at the Capitol Theater, like there are at the Zeiterion, like there are at whatever it's called, Performing Arts Center in Providence, like there are in many gateway cities with these old movie theaters that have been restored. Let's say we could do it. I'm not saying it's viable, but let's dream and say that we could. What do you think would happen to the downtown? Suddenly, there would be restaurants, there would be clubs, there would be places like that. It would become a center. And so, would it work? Of course it would work. It's worked elsewhere. But there are other ways to make it happen. And I've proven that I can do it.
In the race for City Council, Ricky Tiff is making another run for office, having finished 12th 2 years ago. He's looking forward to representing those who are underserved in Fall River.
I feel that there is no voice in the Cambodia community, not as much, not just only the Cambodia community, but also as other minorities as well too, like the Puerto Rican, Dominican, and different ethnicity. I think because maybe because of the language barrier, that they not feel safe when they go out like to City Hall. And as there's not much information in the language word, so I'm hoping that I could represent them, and also encourage all the folks that live in Fall River to get engaged more in the community and also engage with the city government.
Bob Pearson was a member of the school committee for one term nearly 30 years ago and is looking to become elected to the city council. His top priority is making Fall River more affordable for taxpayers.
CSO project, if you remember way back when, was supposed to be a 5-year project. We've gone to 2 or 3 congressmen, and none of them have come up to the plate and say, hey, here's what we really have to do. Perhaps Congressman Auchincloss is doing the best he can. I called his office. Quite frankly, I didn't get the answer I was looking for. If you look at your electric bill, as just one example, there's a little feed on the left-hand corner for solar, and there's another fee on the other side for electric boxes in your garage for a car. I don't have an electric car. I don't have solar on my house, but I'm getting charged for them. It's not a lot, but that's how the federal government is mandating things to us. How about mandating a lump sum of cash to us and say, here's to help pay for your CSO project? And I just feel that the federal government has let us down to a large degree. We're paying enough in taxes.
Incumbent Councilor Michelle Dion is seeking her 3rd term in office. She says she wants to continue to work on behalf of the taxpayer in the face of the rising cost of living.
The train is coming. That's a wonderful thing. It's going to do a lot for our city, but it's hurting a lot of our residents. Many of our residents can't afford to be here anymore. And these were the people who were the backbone for our city for years and years and years. Some of these people are people who believed as long as I pay off my house and I work hard, I'll be all right for forever. And it's not true. They're losing their homes. People can't afford to pay the rents now. We have, as I mentioned in my candidate statement, we have a problem with homelessness. And a lot of these people, I went to a camp on Saturday. It isn't because they don't have an income. It isn't because some of them aren't working. It's because their income doesn't afford them the possibility of paying rent. And that's a sad situation.
Newcomer Joseph Salvador says he wants to focus on safe streets across Fall River, particularly for the elderly. He also says it's time Fall River abandons a one-size-fits-all approach to education.
My son happened with him. He was very good at music. He was passionate about it. They took it away from him because he was failing everything else. But, everyone has an ability. And his ability was mechanical. And he figured it out on his own. Without the Fall River School, without anybody. He'd figured it out on his own. He's making a very good living with a trade. If they would have given him the opportunity to go to Diamond, take these kids who are failing in school, bring them to Diamond. Maybe there's something they're good at. Because, there's so much money attached to a child. Say, I don't know, what was it, $14,000 a year per child? When the child drops out, where does that $14,000 go? Why don't we take this kid, bring him to Diamond for a couple of weeks or a month, and see how he does? If there's something there he's good at, keep him there. And that money will follow him. Why not?
City Councilor Laura Washington was appointed to the council last summer and is seeking a return for another term. She's proud of what she's done thus far to advocate for the youth of Fall River.
I am a big believer in investing in young people because that's prevention 101. So you're preventing, when you invest in your young people and you invest giving them things to do and you invest in their education, but giving them a sense of connectedness to the community, that is so important to do because that really is the front line for stopping young people. Community connectedness stops people from joining gangs, getting involved in drugs. When you have a sense of community and connection to that, it really helps shape one's development for entrepreneurship, it's your leadership positions, and really gives young people a purpose. And that's so important as we continue to move forward in Fall River. We want our young people to flourish here and stay here and be involved.
The candidates you just heard from are part of a longer interview we conducted with the candidates running in the preliminary election. We ask you to visit our special Election 2023 webpage, where you can watch the entire interviews as well as candidate statements. Please visit frmedia.org/election2023. We'll have more FRC Media.